Alright, in this video I wanted to talk about the change to the Optico misc. That misc, basically ever since it came out, there's very little reason to use something different if you were a beast build. But maybe this will actually provide reasons to use something else more often, but um, wanted to kind of go over what they did. So basically Optico is the potence misc. I guess it's omnipotence, right? And so basically you equip it, and then so by default you have your omnipotence. Basically it's about around 11. And then when you click it, you sacrifice 8.5 BTH plus 6 blocking. And so it becomes super potent for uh, not only damage, but it really shines with resource heals. And so, like, if you're using something like Bard of War, just as an example here, and just kind of go over some things. Basically, you would get to go twice for your pet and guest, and then Optico with the times 6 pet hypercrit would have a 60% rate to um, increase damage. So, like with something like Phase, you would get your MP and SP heal. And one of the things about Lucky Strikes is it's the same amount regardless of what's Lucky Striking. So damage will have the same boost as a pet, as a skill, as a spell, a normal melee attack, a wand attack. It's the same regardless. But what they did was, my guess is because in order to turn on pet hypercrit for Optico, basically the way it's working is I think this is an attempt to curb Optico specifically, but it's a premium item. So what they did is they decided to, what they say is make it tick down once the pet goes. So that way it goes away once the pet turn is finished. So that way on pet celerity, it doesn't work anymore. So I'll kind of go over this real quick. So you have, so it ticks down on the pet's turn. So as you can see, it just dropped. We'll do that one more time. So we have pet hypercrit starts, and then it'll tick down. So the pet's going once, they're at the top, and in the second round, you're not getting those lucky strikes. And so overall, it's a nerf for sure to Optico, but there are some weird sort of things that go on, and I'll kind of show you here. Um, Whenever you do player celerity, and it doesn't matter if pet or guest celerity is there. Whenever you do player celerity, so you have pet hypercrit just fired right off the bat. I still have a player turn, and the guest still needs to go. So it's already there. And I think the reason why it's there already is because to pay for the effect, the player is taking the penalty to its BTH and its blocking. So I'm thinking that's why it fires at that time. But since I'm going to go again, now pet hypercrit becomes double rate. So I think technically it's 5.5, but it rounds up to 6, and then that's why it shows 11 on the box. You can also do this, so it doesn't matter, like I said, um, if um, the pet has celerity. So I just gave myself, because we had bleed here, Um, so I gave, this is player only celerity. So as you can see, it's just the player and item, right? So we're going to go, and as you can see, in this instance, it looks like that oh, and Optico didn't even fire yet. Sorry, my bad. So in this instance, it's only times 6 because the player only went once. So my guess is maybe the player is getting double the penalty. So let's do this real quick. Love Struck Scope has a cooldown, so let's see. So it should be ready to go, I think. All right, make sure I swap back to Optical again. All right, so I have an 8 BTH and a negative 8.5 BTH and a negative 6 blocking. So it fires. Well, because I'm going twice, I get double the penalty, and the pet now gets double the bonus on that first turn. So I think that's intended, although it could not be. It may be a bug, but I'm pretty sure that that's how they wanted it to work. So anytime you use like Shadow Feeder Pendant or Shield Cake or the new Love Struck Scope, any time that the um, player gets celerity and goes twice, it's actually going to charge double the penalty now, and then the pet actually on that turn wanted to get double the lucky strike rate. So instead of getting it for both turns, it gets it all rolled into one turn. I would actually prefer it just stayed with both turns, to be honest with you. But basically, like I showed, it essentially gives your pet guaranteed lucky strike. I guess I could just showed you times 11. So everything that the pet's going to do on this turn will be a lucky strike. And then on this turn, it's just the normal 10% rate. And so one of the things that kind of is a downside to this change is, if you remember, let me start over here. If you remember, you could use the Slaymore of Kindness to sort of stack Optico. And so I think that um, you could get it to like times 13 or something before. So the normal stack, so it starts off at 4.18 here. So we'll just keep it out, see what happens here. So we go to the next turn. So it's ticking down. And if you remember, Slaymore had this ice guest empowerment bullshit that no one cares about. Almost no one would use it. And so it's progressing as normal. As you can see, I think the next one will go to 13.35. As long as you have Optico out, it'll progress like normal. And you can't click Slaymore again until basically those statuses are gone. However, now we're going to hop in Bard of War, and now your guest and your pet are going to go twice, and now things change. So as you're going to see, Pet Hypercrit is going to tick down a little faster, but it does stay at the 4.18 rate. Go ahead and do this again. So now it's going to increase to 6 both times. So using this Slaymore can still sort of get you additional turns for celerity. But as you can see, all 4 turns are now gone using Bard. But the guest elemental empowerment is still there. So despite the fact that uh, the pet hypercrit is now gone, you can't, as I'm trying to click right now, you can't sort of respawn the effect on the weapon. You can still attack with something and still get the normal pet hyper crit, but you won't be able to use the actual weapon's effect until that guest elemental empowerment goes away. I personally think they should have made the empowerment also tick down on the guest turn uh, in the exact same way. Um, and that way you can use the Slay more a little faster when you're using Pet and Guest Celerity. Um, Now, it didn't stack as fast, right? Because the number of instances in which, um, let's see, here's the number of instances in which the pet hypercrit degrades. But what happens after you initiate it? Let's see here. So this is a little interesting. So now what we're going to do is give myself player celerity and come back. So we've now initiated this stack and the previous thing that I showed you. So let's see what happens. So pet hypercrit 5.85 like it would have normally been. Oh, the player has to go again. My bad. All right, so now we're up to 7.51. So when you follow up with the initial Slaymore, so we're going to do another celerity here. When you follow up with the Slaymore, now we're at 2 rounds of guaranteed. And now we're up to 12 for 2 rounds, but both rounds are going to be taken right now. So as you can see, it's gone. But in this instance, the Ellie Empower is also gone. So for whatever reason, it does tick down a little faster doing it that way. And you're able to take advantage of the effect. So again, let's start it off with this guy. And then it's based on player celerity. You can't like switch and just do this, right? As you notice, the guest is still 3 rounds, and now pet hypercrit is ticking down. But, you can use other ideas here. You could use Area's Rattle or the Shock Collar, those kinds of things, while you do have the pet hypercrit here. All right, so I wanted to move on to really quick Tribal Shaman. So they kind of did the same thing with Tribal Shaman's change with I guess the pet Ellie Empower is going to tick down um, at the end of the pet's turn. And so the box still shows 4 turns in the caption here, but if you come over here, it's actually 5 turns. So we have 1.25 at 5 turns. And you can kind of sort of combine ideas. And the result of this is actually, as you could see here in the box, it says 4 turns here, but it was 5 like I showed you. The stack will actually grow a little faster now for some reason. So we're up to 1.45. And then you'll start to see some of phase boosts start to kind of go crazy. Pet elemental empowerment at 1.61. So, basically it pays for itself. And I didn't equip it again, but you could also do Area's Rattle or something, since you already have the pet hypercrit here with the elemental empowerment. As you can see, we're now up to 1100 and 1k on the heals, and you can just keep doing this. We're now up to 1.738 pet elemental empowerment. So again, I think the tribal shaman change is actually a buff. I am using foam finger with plus 50, plus the panic stack, plus the hyper crit here. So the combined stack is, you're going to see some pretty good numbers out of it. This starts, I can get it to up to around 1 point. I think the next one will be in the upper 1/8s, and it goes to 1/9s for the next couple rounds. You might can get it up to a pet alien power to 2 at like turn, I don't know, 7 or 8 or something like that. But that's the change to Optico and what they did with Tribal Shaman. There are some shenanigans, like I showed you with Optico, despite the fact that on paper it is a nerf. And like I said, at the end of the day, it really is a nerf. But there's other items you can use to sort of supplement that. As you can see, pet alien power is now 1.9. Let's see what phase is going to be doing. That was a relatively weak one. So we got here. We'll just keep going. 1.98. I bet the next one will hit 2. That MP heal was up to 1500. So now we're up over 2. And I could probably do something like this. And then that is plus 50, right? Let's see if we can manage to get like 1500 or 1800 here. 13 and 15. So you can get multiple turns and multiple stacks here. Oh shit, I meant to do the alien power. But those are the changes to Optico and Tribal Shaman. I don't know. They're just trying to work on that. I think there are some people that are trying to actively find ways to nerf some of the items that Beastmasters use. In light of the stat revamp not nerfing charisma hard enough in some people's eyes. So I would fully expect some game balance issue posts upcoming that maybe talk about certain issues like hypercrit, for example, as a whole, but really drill down and try to claim that pet hypercrit is overpowered, or the amount of lucky strike damage is overpowered. The changes to spellcaster lean, healing, and the change to berserk healing, which just took place. Berserk no longer lets you boost healing. It's going to sort of provide arguments so that these kinds of boosts here, like for example this elemental empowerment, should not be boosting phase heals, should not be boosting other forms of if you're using like Fairy Godmother, those kinds of heals. And so I don't think it's warranted, because they're utilizing things that boost features rather than it's just like heal resistance on hit point heals. You're using features that boost the heal. It's Elevons on Mosquito and stuff like that. Those should be fine, but they're going to try to have them nerfed because there's an agenda there, because there's some anti Beastmaster agenda there. So I just think that ultimately, just get ready for it. But like I said, this is the Optico and Tribal Shaman change. Um, I don't think that it kills the build. It does make it a little less reliable, but you need, like I've shown you, maybe some other supplemental things, which is why I think the Tribal Shaman armor is a must-have for Beastmasters. But there's other supplemental items that kind of will help offset this change.